11th at the Coliseum. The Miami Dolphins are expected to move on from linebacker Kyle Van Noy just 1 year after he signed a 4-year, $51 million deal in free agency. Van Noy telling the NFL Network he's surprised and disappointed with the Dolphins' decision. Elle?
So, Kevin, you mentioned it, that this time last year, the NFL news was dominated by Dallas and will they, won't they slap Dak Prescott with the franchise tag. Spoiler alert, they actually did, and it does feel like Groundhog Day for Dallas because a year later and a week removed from that tag deadline, we are here again, albeit with the caveat that Dak is coming off an injury. Despite that, Jerry Jones with a surprising admission about his quarterback's leverage. Here's Ed Werder.
The clock ticks toward a doomsday scenario for the Cowboys. They have exactly 1 week to reach contract agreement with quarterback Dak Prescott, or one of two similarly undesired outcomes will be realized. Prescott will be designated the franchise player and be guaranteed $37.7 million for the 2021 season while the negotiating window is extended, or he becomes an unrestricted free agent.
Prescott caught it at the goal line! Touchdown! There's your razzle-dazzle.
As Jerry Jones has said, Prescott has all the leverage, which is amazing considering he played on the franchise tag last season and suffered the worst possible consequence, a season-ending injury. That's how bad the situation has become for the Cowboys.
He should be back 100% for next season without any questions.
Prescott and agent Todd France have no incentive to make any major concessions, knowing the worst possible outcome for the quarterback is to be franchise tagged a second time, make $69 million over 2 years, and likely become an unrestricted free agent in his prime at this very time next year. If current negotiations fail and Prescott is franchise tagged again next week, they would have until mid-July to reach an agreement on a long-term deal, just as they did last summer. While the exact salary cap numbers remain uncertain, the Cowboys currently have only $18.5 million in cap space. That's not nearly enough for Prescott without restructuring other contracts or releasing Cowboys players.
Ed Werder joining us now with much more. Ed, you mentioned the devastating right ankle injury that ended Dak's season. What's the latest on his recovery?
Yeah, Kevin, late last year, Prescott required a second surgery on the right ankle that he dislocated in Week 5 against the Giants, and that was necessary because the primary concern with the initial surgery was to protect him against an infection since he suffered an open fracture. None of this should make the Cowboys hesitant to commit to Prescott. I'm told, Kevin, that he's been at the team facility doing his rehab Monday through Friday. One team source tells me the quarterback will be, quote, 110% fine and physically ready by the middle of next month to participate in the offseason program, provided, of course, he's under contract or has signed the franchise tender.
Okay, we will see. Again, we'll wait this next week out, and we'll see how the Cowboys play things with their franchise quarterback, Ed Werder, with the very latest on the Cowboys. Elle?
Kevin, I don't know, maybe the Cowboys have like a little bit of a bargaining chip. Because you'll remember that Russell Wilson had the Cowboys on his potential trade list, right? So should the Seahawks be looking to move him? Also on the short list, you got the Bears. They've got plenty of quarterback questions around the guys that are currently on their roster, starting with the biggest question mark of all, which would be, of course, Mitchell Trubisky. He went 6-3 in the final regular season of his rookie deal, but he couldn't get the Bears over the hump in the postseason. Chicago went 0-2 in his playoff starts, including a loss to Nick Foles and the Eagles in 2018. Speaking of which, of course, Foles also on the roster. Maybe he's the guy. I don't know. The former Super Bowl champ with Philly went 2-5 in his first season with the Bears. He's got 2 years left on his contract with just $4 million guaranteed. Bears brass speaking today on their offseason approach at the quarterback position.
Really, right now for us, everything's on the table in regard to the quarterback situation. And honestly, that includes players on our current roster. That includes free agency, trade, the draft, and a combination of all those. So we have a plan in place, and now it's about executing that plan.
Where two franchise quarterbacks might be available in Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. How surprised are you about that news, which has ruled the NFL this offseason? And do you allow yourself to think about the possibility of them if you're thinking about all of the possibilities with this team?
Yeah, obviously I can't get into any of that because those guys are, all these players are under contracts. And so it's just, to me, I have no idea. We have to, from our end, we have to look at it like the guys that we know their contracts are up, and that's what we do. And so we just stick to that plan, and that's not something that I can even get into.
That's why we bring Jeremy Fowler in, because he's going to tell us what he actually knows. More on the Bears now. So with the Russell Wilson factor at least lingering around, what does it look like for Chicago and how they'll approach that situation?
Well, Elle, I expect the Chicago Bears to at least take their shot here, because a source told me Russell Wilson likes that they have an emerging offensive line, a good, solid offensive-minded coach in Matt Nagy, and they have an intriguing market in Chicago. So they'll call around on this. I keep hearing from the Seattle side, Seahawks are not going to deal him. They have nothing in the works. Russell Wilson himself does not expect to be dealt right now. But Wilson is watching the situation closely because he wants more in their push for a Super Bowl. He wants to see himself better protected, some future plans in place. If he doesn't feel like he's getting that in the next weeks or months, he could make this even more difficult, up the ante publicly. So we'll see. Maybe that opens a door for the Bears, but they'll have some backup plans too. Watch out for Alex Smith potentially if he's released by Washington. He has a long-standing relationship with Matt Nagy. Then there's Mitchell Trubisky. I think that's less likely at this point. Both sides could use a fresh start from what I'm hearing.
It's interesting because the Bears are sort of dealing with this, but they've actually got a really huge decision to make, not at quarterback, but also at wide receiver. What's the plan for their top free agent, Allen Robinson?
Yeah. Well, I'm told Robinson is loosely anticipating getting the franchise tag. The Bears have until March 9th to make that declaration. Should be between $16 and $17 million. The Bears have not informed him of that yet, but that seems to be where this is trending. They want to try to hold on to him, but I know Robinson would love to be a free agent at this point. Negotiations sort of went south early in the 2020 season, where he feels like he's going to have a lot of suitors. I would watch out for the NFC East, Washington, New York. Those could be teams looking to upgrade at that important position.
I'd say so. Allen Robinson caught 200-plus passes over the last 2 seasons. The only others to do that, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelce. Get them. Jeremy Fowler with the very latest here on the Sports Center. Thanks, Jeremy.
And then there's the big fish, L. J.J. Watt introduced to the media as a Cardinal one day after he broke his own story by tweeting out a picture of him working out with the team logo on his chest. Now, Watt said he ordered multiple team shirts, sent them to a different house so no one could scoop him and leak where he was going to sign.
Oh, my gosh. That's a lot.
Adam Schefter's blushing right now while I read this. Here's Watt today.
The longer I looked at it, the more it just signs kept pointing back down here. You know, there's a lot of exciting things about what's happening down here in Arizona. I've always said in this league you have to have a quarterback to have a chance, and there's a young, extremely talented quarterback here who can do big things and is going from year 2 to year 3 and can take an even bigger jump to continue to grow and progress and be even better. I mean, you've got DeAndre Hopkins, who's one of the best wide receivers in the league, I'm obviously very familiar with. You've got a defensive scheme and that's led by Vance Joseph, who I was with my first 3 years down in Houston when under Wade Phillips. And Vance runs a similar scheme to Wade, which is a scheme I'm very familiar with and very comfortable with and excited to play in. You've got guys like Chandler Jones and Budda Baker and guys all over that defense that are really young, excited guys, ready to get after it, ready to fly around and make some plays. So I'm just very excited to be here, and I'm also not going to lie to you, it doesn't hurt when it's 65 degrees and sunny outside when I woke up this morning, so it's pretty nice.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
So jelly.
Good for you. Yeah. Watt wore number 99 with the Texans, but that number was previously retired by the Cardinals in honor of Marshall Goldberg, who played for the franchise in the 1940s. So he got the blessing from Goldberg's daughter to wear number 99 with the Cardinals in Arizona. Ryan Clark joining us now with much more. So, other reaction from the news conference here. Watt said that he's in Arizona because he believes in Kyler Murray. So, Ryan, how would you evaluate Murray after his first 2 seasons?
Well, I tell you what, Watt knows what it's like to play with a young, talented quarterback, especially coming from Deshaun Watson. And you look at Kyler Murray's first year, you know, you saw the flashes of what could be greatness. We saw him kind of change the game from the position in being a quarterback that wasn't tall but had a whip for an arm, could obviously get out of the pocket and make plays. And early on last season, they were talking about him in the MVP race. And those things kind of tailed off toward the end of the season. Cliff Kingsbury wasn't as creative as you hoped he'd be. I think Kyler Murray has an opportunity to be a perennial Pro Bowler, a guy that can be an All-Pro and eventually an MVP. He has to continue to evolve. He has to take his games to some different levels. But if Cliff Kingsbury doesn't get more creative and this offense continues to get stale and he takes the hits he did last year, he could not finish some of these seasons. So there are some things to tweak, but you can see those glimpses of excellence in Kyler Murray's play.
Yeah, listen to this. Murray's the first player in NFL history to throw for over 7,500 yards, over 45 touchdowns touchdown passes and rushed for over 15 more touchdowns in his first 2 years. And they got to still open up that